Hey bag makers, I'm Sarah Lawson from Sew Sweetness. Thanks so much for joining me for Sewcial Sunday, my weekly sewing chat. Hey everybody, welcome to Sewcial Sunday. Thanks so much for joining me, whether you're watching live or later on in the week you're watching the recording. I wanted to wish Gina Muhammad a happy 25th wedding anniversary, so congratulations to you. Happy anniversary. There she is. She says, how is everyone's weekend? My husband and I just celebrated our 25 wedding anniversary. That's amazing. Reg is watching from Connecticut. Camber's Quilts from Wisconsin. And Kathy from the mountains of central Mexico. Also, Vicky's watching from Queensland, Australia. So welcome everyone. My outline for tonight is packed, lots of things that I'm excited to talk to you about. Before we get started with the notion of the week, I wanted to announce the winner of the week 3 sew along for the Clydebank tote. That's a free pattern and video, and the sew along is being conducted over in the Facebook group and hosted by Michelle Graham. So thank you to Michelle for hosting that. And the winner of week 3 is Connie Handel. So congratulations to you, Connie. A little bit more to go with the sew along, and we'll have more fun activities throughout the year, of course. So if you're not already a member of the Facebook group, there's a link in the description to our Facebook group and you can join us there. A friendly reminder before I get started with the notion of the week, just about everything that I talk about on Sewcial Sunday are things that I've purchased myself. So these are not things that I'm getting paid to talk to you about, but just cool things that I found that I'd like to share with you. So this week's notion, I kind of hinted to it last week, is an email I recently got regarding the Bo Nash Fuse It powder. So this is what the actual product packaging looks like. This was in regards to a live Sewcial Sunday question that popped up a few weeks ago about, and I actually have a quilt of my own to demonstrate as far as this happening to, what do you do with rips or tears in either a quilt, a sewing project, maybe you have a pair of jeans that had a tear in the knee that you didn't mean the tear to be there. So this Bo Nash Fuse It powder helps with that, and the packaging contains a canister of powder, and it also contains 2 fiberglass pressing sheets. So these measure 6 inches by 9 inches, so large enough to repair most projects. And Bo Nash also makes a bigger package of the fiberglass sheets. This is what the larger package looks like. Actually, after using this, I found that it would make a really good pressing cloth on its own just for general bag making, especially if you're using fusible interfacings. And this particular package measures 24 inches by 18 inches. So the same material as these 2 little pressing sheets that came with the Fuse It powder starter kit, but in the bigger sheet. So again, I'm demonstrating the starter kit, which contains the powder and the pressing cloths, and I noticed that they do also sell the powder separately. So if you're looking to purchase it, just make sure you're getting the starter kit with both. Okay, so I'm gonna have Danny flip over to the overhead camera, and I've got a few scraps of fabric here that I'm going to use to demonstrate how this product actually works. So I've got just a charm square of fabric, and I'm going to actually cut into it to simulate a tear, and then I'm also going to take a chunk out of the fabric. I'm just going to cut a little triangle out of the fabric. Okay, so after reading the instructions, I noticed that you'll first start with one of those fiberglass pressing sheets, and you want the fabric to be wrong side facing up. I'm going to go ahead and place that replacement piece where it should go in the cutout. Now I recognize that if you have a torn quilt like I do, or perhaps you have a garment with a piece cut out, maybe it got burned out or something happened to it, you might not have an exact piece to replace it. If it's a garment, you might want to take a little scrap, maybe from a waistband, a hem if it's jeans. If you have a similar color fabric to fit in with your quilt, you can go ahead and do that. But I recognize that you might not have the same exact fabric cut out from it to replace it. So just do the best you can as far as fabric or color matching. Okay, so after you've done that, and there's nothing that I need to do with the rip further before I sprinkle the powder. It's pretty much just like a salt shaker, and you just want to sprinkle a little bit. I recommend doing a test on another fabric before you work on your actual project, just so you can get a feel for how it works. But I've got a scrap of white fabric over here, which I'm going to use as a patch for this piece right here since I cut that out. There's no need to do a patch over this one because it's just a slit through the fabric. So I'm just going to go ahead and place that on top. If you notice when you place the patch that there's extra sprinkled powder over here, you can just go ahead and hold your fingers over the patch and blow it away. I found that through testing throughout the day, the less powder that you have, the better, but you want to make sure that you have enough powder to finish the project. So that's why I mentioned you should experiment before you work on the actual quilt or whatever you're looking to repair. So I'm going to follow that up with the second pressing cloth, and the instructions say that you should iron on the cotton setting, which you can see my iron is set at the cotton setting, and you want to iron with no steam. So I've got my iron set to no steam. And you're actually going to iron on both sides. So when you're done with this side, you're going to flip it over. And if you're working with something like jeans where you have to turn them inside out, you can just carefully remove the pressing cloth, turn the jeans right side out, and then apply it to the other side of the fabric. Okay. So you want to make sure it cools completely. While this is cooling for just a second, I'm going to show you the two samples that I worked on during the day, just to show you a little bit about my thoughts about the product. So I tried a sample with the powder sprinkled on the right side of the fabric and the wrong side of the fabric before I ironed, and as you can see, the powder creates a shiny film on the front, so you definitely don't want to do that. I also tested, because this product is supposed to be permanent, the package instructions say that you're able to wash it just like you would the regular garment, so I did actually wash this square, and the powder or the fusible filament stayed intact, so it is permanent as far as I can tell. What else can I let you know about this? Like I said earlier, the more powder that you apply, the more you can feel it in the fabric. So for example, this, I know you can't see it in my fabric sample, but I applied a lot of powder here, and it's a little bit stiff in this area that I applied the powder to, and as you can see, maybe you can see from the camera, my little triangle kind of slid over while I was ironing, so you can kind of see the gap over here. Let me go ahead and see if this one's ready to show you. Okay, so my slit over here looks pretty good, and this part with the triangle also looks pretty good. I have to tell you, I think my expectations, I'll have Danny switch over to the front camera again. I think my expectations were really high when I first was playing around with this product earlier. I think I thought for some reason that it would be almost invisible once I applied it to the fabric. It's definitely not invisible. I feel like the slit was more successful than the piece of fabric that I actually cut out and tried to replace. I do see a few fraying, I guess, raw edges, but all in all, I have to say, if you were looking to repair something like a quilt, or maybe a really old quilt that's been passed around in your family, a tear like the one that I shared with you in my quilt, I think it would look really, really nice repaired with this product. And like I said, you just have to be realistic with your expectations, and a big hole cut out of it will not be invisible. So there's a lot of, according to the instructions are quite extensive, but there's a lot of other items that you can repair with this particular product. I noticed in the instructions, sweaters, you can use it for applique, foiling, what else? Moth or burn holes in wool blends or other fibers. So there's a lot of uses for this particular product, and I think I definitely would use it, and I do plan on using it to repair that quilt with the hole in it. I think I will, however, with that hole, I'll have to think about if I want the patch underneath, since I don't have batting in that particular quilt because I used Minky for the backing. I might just sprinkle the powder and make sure that the ripped fabric edges were aligned, since it's basically just a slit through my quilt. I'll let you know how that goes, but I definitely wanted to play around with it with my samples a few times before I got over to the actual quilt. So again, that was, the product is Bo Nash Fuse It powder, and the link to this product as well as that extra pressing sheet are in the description. All right, let me move a few things out of my area here, and let's see what else is on the outline. So I have a question for you. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever made a hole in a sewn project before? Maybe a bag, maybe something similar to my quilt happened to you before. I think most of us have a history of having some sort of rip or tear in pants or other clothing, but let me know in the comments. Perhaps you fixed it somehow. Maybe you've appliqued a little patch over your jeans, but let me know in the comments if you've done any repair work on some of your sewn items in the past. So in the last week, I've been doing some behind the scenes working, but I do have one thing that I can share with you. That summer sampler 2020 quilt along that I've been working on. This is the block that I completed last Sunday. I know it looks really complicated because of all the curves, but it was actually really fun and easy to sew. So this is block 5. I'm almost halfway done. 6th block is coming out tonight. I'm really excited about having 6 blocks in my little stack over here. And the kids and I also made a project today, sort of a no-sew project, but we made duct tape wallets. Here's mine. I had orange duct tape on the lining, and this is the one Violet made. William made one also, and his had lots of stripes on it. This is part of an online summer course that I signed my kids up for. They were very unhappy when they heard that I had signed them up for this class. The website is called brainchase.com, and it's a 6-week summer course. It kind of reminds me of Carmen Sandiego or Wildcrats, the same type of animation, but it's animated videos. You follow clues and you complete courses. So there's about 20 courses that you choose from. I chose for my kids, at first I wanted them to do math, but they did some math, a lot of math for their online learning for their regular school. So they're both doing writing. They have weekly writing assignments. I signed them up for art, which those duct tape wallets were part of the first week of their art projects. And then Violet is learning Spanish as part of their partnership with Rosetta Stone. She's doing really well with Spanish. And William chose typing. I think he was looking for something kind of on the easier side. So I'm really happy with the Brain Chase course format. The kids are I think they're warming up to the projects, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the second week of the art project is, because we'll be doing that one again together as well. I also wanted to post a picture Violet did, not for Brain Chase, but something she did on her own. Danny's going to put it up on the screen right now. This is me and Smudge, and Violet did this really cool drawing. I love how it turned out. I don't know, she's just so artistic. She did a few other pieces of artwork in a similar style today. I don't know why she chose the Chick-fil-A logo, so she did that one up in a similar artistic style earlier today. And Danny and I asked her to do some drawings like this of my bags. So I pulled out the Rockstar bag and the Sublime bag, and she's going to work on those, and I'll keep you updated to how those turn out. All right, new fabric that I added to my stash this week is from Ruby Star Society. The fabric line is called Tigerfly. It's designed by Sarah Watts, and I'm going to have Danny switch over to the overhead so I can share the fabric with you. So the first thing I bought was, they have for some of their fabric lines really cool panels. So these panels are 108 inches wide, and the panels make several projects. So I'm not gonna unwrap this because it's too large to show you on the overhead, but I'm gonna open the little card that came with it to share with you what the projects are. So the focal panel, you can make it into a quilt or the backing of a quilt, and the panel is 78 inches by 98 inches. You can make 2 shams for bed pillows. That's these right here. An 18-inch square throw pillow front. I think that one's this one right here. 9 inches by 19 inches, another panel for a pillow, and then you can make a baby quilt. Actually, I think this is the baby quilt and that's the pillow, but the baby quilt is 28 inches by 34 inches. So a ton of projects that you can make from just this one thing. and I really particularly love the tiger print. And then I'm going to flip through the rest of the fabrics. I think they all have metallics. I'll point out the metallics when I get to them. So this one is, I think all of them are large scale prints or panels. So this one is a really large, I guess, panel. These would be really great for zipper pouches, and the gold, this is the metallic in the prints. I like that it's basically all squares with butterflies throughout the whole entire piece of fabric. Same thing for this next one. I love this aqua print. The color is amazing. Again, the metallic is the gold and lots of butterflies. There you can see there's one with green over here. So some darker colors for those butterflies. And then I got it in a third colorway, and this one's sort of a maroon background. Again, the gold is the metallic. Let me flip it open so you can see all the colors of the butterflies. And these are, let me grab a ruler to see how big. These are about 10-inch square each one, so fairly large. I got a couple of panel prints. So panels generally mean that the design is usually along the selvage, and then there's a lot of, let me show you so this is the selvage area. If you flip to the other side, there's lots of this gray design with the moon and stars, and then here's the other side. So lots of great opportunity for bag making in this particular print. I also picked it up in, let's see, a navy print. So same design, just in a navy. Here's another with butterflies, smaller scale. The gold, again, is the metallic. It's really pretty in person. This one is tigers. Again, same thing with the gold. I'm not sure how well that shows up on the camera, but it's really sparkly. And then I picked up this one. This is a really big butterfly panel. So basically going from small to large butterflies. And then there's a really huge butterfly on the other side. So again, the fabric line is called Tigerfly. It's designed by Sarah Watts, and I've linked to it in the description in case you're interested in checking out the rest of the fabrics from the line. I didn't pick up every single print from the line, just as you can see, the large scale prints. So I have a question for you. Let me know in the comments, what is your least used fabric color when you're selecting fabrics or choosing projects? So I'd have to say, for sure, I don't use a ton of grays or reds or maroons, so these colors are a little bit outside of what I would normally pick, but I really love the designs, and sometimes choosing something that's a little bit outside of your comfort level will turn up into a really amazing finished project. So I'm looking forward to putting my brain to the test and seeing what I can come up with those tiger fly fabrics. So I've been listening to, I know I mentioned briefly last Sunday on Sewcial Sunday when Danny was on the show, but I've been really enjoying Malcolm Gladwell's podcast called Revisionist History, and he mentioned recently in an interview that I listened to as well, that he generally works on 3 podcast episodes at once, and they each take about a month long if you're talking about continuous time. And that made me think that what I've been doing in this past week is okay, because I have 4 projects at different stages going on right now at once, and normally I try to stick with one and just finish it first, but because of shipping times and delays in getting supplies in for certain things that I need, or I ran out of a particular zipper in a color that I wanted, so I needed to wait a little bit of time to get that particular zipper color in. So I tried not to stress about putting a project to the side and starting another one, but I've really been enjoying the workflow. I know that can potentially mean a recipe for disaster as far as UFOs go, but I'm going to try my hardest to finish all 4 of those. I know 3 I will finish for sure, just because of the nature of what they are, but I'm not sure if you have that problem sometimes too. Running out of a certain supply, needing to wait, maybe you're starting another thing. But for sure, hearing Malcolm Gladwell say that he worked on several things at once made made me feel a little bit better and helped ease my mind. So I'm going to jump right over to the book review for this week, and the book is called, where did I put the book? Graffiti Quilting. The author is Carly Porter, and actually, I'll show you my bag photo after we get started. So I've bookmarked a few pages. Graffiti quilting is not only meant to be done on the long arm, it can be done on your home domestic sewing machine as well. And this particular book is volume 2, so she has a previous volume, but I thought I'd pick up volume 2. Maybe there would be extra tips that volume 1 did not include. So this is a picture of Carly and just some information, backstory about Carly. Carly wrote the volume 2 book after teaching across the country her graffiti style of quilting, and these are just some extra things that she picked up while teaching her students. So the first section of the book is called Weapons of Choice, and this is items that you need for quilting, products that Carly suggests. So obviously you need a machine. She does extensive sketching for her designs before moving over to the fabric. She uses particular pens and pencils. She says even a simple Bic ballpoint pen will work. Fabric marking tools. She did mention one that I hadn't heard of before, and that's the Sullivan's Multi-Mark Water Soluble Pen, which I think is possibly this one. So I'm going to look for that after the show. Maybe I can demonstrate it on a future Sewcial Sunday. That one looks really interesting. She talks about the different types of fabric that can be quilted using this style, even leather, which I thought was really interesting. And different thread weights, thread colors, if you want your thread to blend in or not, and batting, which is very important. Carly says when she first started quilting, she thought, well, batting is batting, but it really does make a difference. And safety pins, quilt basting spray, and obviously needle and thread if you're basting by hand. So next section of the book is filling your toolbox, and these are all of the different styles of designs that Carly uses, and I'm not going to flip through this particular section in detail just because I feel like that's the secret sauce of the book, but just to give you a little sneak peek, she talks about, she shows you a particular fabric quilted in that style and shows you how to actually stitch it onto your fabric. So that is majority of the book. Here's some of the designs. And the part that I found most interesting is she talks about how to set yourself up, how to get started, because she said in the book that this was a question a lot of her students had. So she gives you different setups for where to start and how to work your way outward. So this one's called, she calls this one Yellow Brick Road. And again, she teaches you how to do that, but I kind of covered that up just because that's part of what you'll learn from the book. This one's called Target, and again, you'll use your own design choices, but she shows you how to get started and where to go from there, because I think sometimes choosing where to start might be one of the harder things. This one is called Bars. As you can see, it's horizontal bars of designs across the fabric, and they can be stitched in the same color, but I think she illustrates it well when she separates it by the different colors. This is called Russian Mosque. Really cool, and I like the different divisions of thread colors. This one's called Quilting by a Thread, and this is a really large scale quilting design. I love this one so much. What else did I bookmark in the book? Just some other step-by-step instructions. Again, I didn't want to show you the full step-by-step instructions, but Carly tells you not only where to start as far as those different motifs, but how to get started on your first motif, and step-by-step, kind of holding your hand through it, and there's her finished design from the example. So I thought this book was really great. Danny's going to put a picture on the screen right now. Actually, this is, I did not quilt this one myself, but years ago my friend Lisa Sipes long-armed me a 1-yard piece of fabric, and I cut it up, and it ended up being the Lillian laptop bag. I tried my hardest to get that stream of feathers fussy cut and continuing from the flap to the body of the bag. as you can see on the right hand side, she also did some creative quilting. Again, I did my best to get that fussy cut as well so the design would continue, and I just really love how this one came out. This one actually went home to stay with Lisa, so I don't have it to show you in person, but I hoped the picture would suffice. And just some ideas, that graffiti quilting book that I showed you, not only for quilts, also awesome for quilting a 1-yard piece of fabric. You could even quilt it to a piece of foam interfacing, and then you've got one less thing to prepare as far as getting all of your fabric and interfacing cut out. So let me pull my outline back up. Danny's favorite part of the Sunday show, we'd like to invite all the bag makers to stand proud. Let us know in the comments that you're part of the Sew Sweetness squad. We're so happy that you're here. I was really looking forward to tonight's show because several portions of the show were things that were recommended to me by viewers, and we answer every single email. I listen to all of your suggestions and take them to heart. So I really appreciate each and every one of you, and thanks for watching. All right, my demonstration for tonight is 2 new acrylic templates that we have in the shop. We have one for aligning purse feet on your fabric, and another for getting your rivets placed on your handles or straps. I have to tell you a story about this rivet centering ruler. This one's probably been about a year in the making. Ed and Robin, who make all of our acrylic templates out in Arizona, we worked on some sort of rivet ruler quite a while ago. I want to say almost a year ago, and I got it back and something felt like it was missing from the template, but I didn't know quite what it was or where to go from there, so it sat on my bookcase for about a year, and finally came back around to it, not by force, but it just happened. Had some more ideas to add to it, and this is the final ruler. So we're going to switch back over to the overhead, and I'll show you how to use first the purse feet. Actually, let me hold this up. There we go, over some pink fabric so you can see it a little better. So this is the purse feet alignment ruler. There are measurements starting with 1 inch and going every ½ inch after that. So 1 inch, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, all the way up to 5 inches. You'll notice there's some holes, and the holes are big enough to accommodate a friction pen, which is one of my favorite marking tools. And I've prepared a piece. As you can see, this is a bottom panel for a bag. I've got some purse feet already inserted, and I've got another piece over here. The fabric is already attached to foam interfacing, and I'm going to show you how to use the ruler. So in a lot of my patterns, if I'm going to have optional purse feet, I'll give you the measurements for where to install them. You can also, if you're working from a pattern that doesn't have purse feet built into the pattern, or you just like to add your own, you can use this template. So I'm going to go off of a measurement that I like to use a lot for purse feet, off of a rectangular square bottom panel, and that's 1.5 inches. So you'll notice on 2 of the side edges there's dashes, and there's some on this side as well. So the dashes are just like a general ruler, every 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4, and then 1 inch. So the 2 edges with the dashes, you're going to line up on the raw edges of your fabric. And then I'm looking for the 1.5 inch measurement. So I'm going to go ahead and take my friction pen, make the marking through the template. I'm going to just swivel my template again so the dashed edges are aligned with the raw edges of the fabric. Again, looking for 1.5 inches. And I'm going to do the same thing for the remaining 2 edges. All right, that was fast and easy. Takes the guesswork out of it, and then you'll just install the purse feet like you normally would. I use my seam ripper, and I kind of usually like to angle it in toward the corner, and you always want to start with a smaller slit because you can always make a smaller slit bigger. And especially if I'm using quilting cotton or another fabric that will fray, I always like to put a dab of seam sealant on the holes before I insert the purse feet. So I'm going to use this fray block. Oh, I guess that was really raring to go, that little bottle. And then I'm just going to be inserting the purse feet through the right side of the fabric. And if you've noticed that your slits are too small, like I mentioned, you can always make them bigger. Okay, so you'll do the same thing to insert all 4 purse feet, and then you'll just flip to the wrong side of the fabric and open the prongs outward. So this is what it will look like with all of the 4 purse feet installed. I also pulled out a panel of fabric because not all bottom panels of bags are, you know, squared off edges. So I've got one with rounded edges over here. You'll use the purse feet alignment ruler in a similar manner. I'm going to align the edges with the dashes along the raw straight edges of the fabric. And since I need a darker marking tool, I'm going to be using this Tandy leather pen, which I demonstrated on a previous episode of Sewcial Sunday. And instead of 1.5 inches from the corner, which is kind of close to the edge of the fabric, I think I might go with 2 inches instead. And you'll mark it in the same manner that we did with that previous demonstration. So really quick and easy. There's other measurements included in case you're working with a really big panel of fabric, and that's how to use the purse feet alignment ruler. Okay, one more demonstration with the second acrylic template that came in. Actually, I'm going to hold it up against I'm going to grab some pink fabric to hold it up against just so you can see all of the measurements. So this particular ruler is 12 inches long, and you'll notice there's 3 separate sections of this template. So I decided to go with the 3 separate sections. This section, all of the holes are 1/2 inch apart. The middle section, all of the holes are 3/4 of an inch apart. And this third section, all of the holes are 1 inch apart, and those are marked. So this is marked 1 inch spacing, 3/4 inch spacing, and 1/2 inch spacing. Another thing that I decided to add to this ruler is 1 inch bars. Now I know that not every strap or handle is 1 inch wide, but I found that having these bars is helpful because even if your strap is wider, say for example your strap is 1.5 inches, you can still center this and quickly mark out your hole. So the thing I found in the past when using a regular quilting ruler to make marks for my rivets is I was often in a hurry or choosing the wrong measurement or not paying attention, and sometimes I would have a rivet every 1 inch and then I'd make a mistake and one would be a 1/2 inch away from the last. And so this acrylic template takes out the guesswork and makes sure that you don't make mistakes like those that I've made in the past. So first I'm going to pull out a bag that I'm working on. As you can see, I've already attached the handles to the exterior portion of the bag. This is already attached to the foam interfacing, and I'm going to go ahead and use the 1 inch spacing on the ruler. So I'm going to align the bottom edge with the bottom edge of the fabric just so that when I move over to the second side of the handle, I can make sure my measurements are equal. You can see I aligned the handle in between that 1 inch spacing. So you'll just align that with the edges of your fabric, and I'm going to start with 2 inches because I don't want to be so close to the bottom. So I'm going to measure, mark with my Tandy leather marker every 1 inch, and I'm going to stop over here with the 8 inches. As you can see, my mark's clearly right there, and then I'm going to move over to the second and make the rest of the markings. And as I mentioned, there's different spacings, so if you prefer your rivets to be a little bit closer together, no problem, just choose either 3/4 of an inch or 1/2 inch and it'll be the same process. So I'm not going to actually install rivets on this demonstration because I do already have a video that's a little bit longer showing how to install rivets, but here's the back of the bag. I used the same increments using the ruler, and I installed the rivets, and I don't think I've ever had rivets look so nice. What else was I going to say? If you have not installed rivets before or would like to learn a little bit more about that, I have a video on my YouTube channel. You can just do a search on the Sew Sweetness channel for rivets, and I can show you how I work my rivet press. A little bit more information about dies and rivet sizes and all that is included in that video. So I have a thicker strap just to show you that this acrylic template also works for straps that are wider than 1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and that 1 inch bar, I'm just going to go ahead and center that in between my top stitching, and that will easily allow me to make the markings. down the center of the handle or strap. Okay, so that's the demonstration for the rivet centering ruler and the purse feet alignment tool, and I hope you enjoyed that. And I know your traditional quilting rulers will get the job done just as well, but if you'd like a little bit of fuss-free marking, that's the rivet centering tool and the purse feet alignment ruler, and we have them both in stock on our website, and the link is in the description in case you'd like to check those out after the show. So hope you enjoyed those, and thank you to everyone who has made recommendations for those two tools in the past. We've had requests for both some sort of acrylic template for purse feet and one for rivets, so I was very excited to be able to finally offer those to you. So I'm going to be answering some questions live in just a minute, so if you have a question for me, bag making related question, a question about a notion or a tool, or a general sewing question, go ahead and type your questions right now in the comment area on either Facebook or YouTube, and you just want to make sure that you're signed into your account first. Before we get over to the questions, I wanted to announce the winner of last week's giveaway, and the winner is Hala Stickles, so congratulations to you. I've already contacted Hala on social media and heard back from her via email, so we'll be shipping out her prize. And again, congratulations to you, and we have another giveaway for you at the end of tonight's show. So I'm sure Danny's got some great questions queued for me, so he's going to start posting those for me right now. Bernadette says, you post to Australia. I would love to buy some of your cork, but due to the pandemic, I wasn't sure if delivery is possible internationally. So we are shipping worldwide, however, not counting Canada, just because Canada is so close to the United States. A lot of the international packages are taking about 8 weeks to arrive. I know that's a really long time. I assume it's due to the limited flights leaving the country, packages having to wait in line to hop on a flight, and then also having to wait again when they arrive at their destination country. There's a waiting time to get through customs as well. So unfortunately, that's the state of things right now, but yes, about 8 weeks for packages to get to other countries from the United States. Just tried my new rivet press this weekend. I was going through 6 layers of faux leather for a wrist strap. Do they make longer shank rivets? My 8mm rivets would not go through all 6 layers. So they do make several different sizes. I generally stock in my little box of rivets. The ones I use most commonly are 8mm rivets with 6mm post length, and that's what I used for the demonstration. That's going through one handle, fabric and foam interfacing, but it sounds like you have quite a thickness there, so you want to look through a longer post length. They are available. I'm sure it will depend by seller, but contact the maker of your press or wherever you're buying your replacement rivets and see what their recommendation would be for such a thickness. Laura says, is that a new bag pattern in the making? Actually it is. I wasn't planning on talking about any of the new patterns or anything like that, just because I don't know when we'll be able to release them, but I did need something prepared with fabric and a handle attached to it, which just happened to be where I stopped off working on this. And so again, I don't know when it will be coming out, but just one of those things that I mentioned that I was in the middle of working on. Kelly says, could we see the back of the piece with the rivets? Yeah, sure thing. So here's the front of that piece, and here's the back. So I get the double capped rivets, so the rivets pretty much look the same in the back as they do in the front. Beth says, I'm struggling with binding. It never looks as neat and pretty as I want. Do you have tips, suggestion, or even videos on how to make perfect binding, or do I just need to keep practicing? So I'm not sure if you're talking about binding for one of the So Sweetness patterns or just general binding for a quilt. Where's that book that I talked about recently? I can't find it quickly on my bookshelf, but Ebony Love has written some really terrific binding books if you're looking for just general binding instruction for quilts. Actually, I referenced her books in the most recent quilt that I bound, and that was, I think it was a couple weeks ago, and it turned out great. If you're talking about binding for bag making, I think her books would be helpful for that as well. I tend to like to cut my binding either 2 1/4 of an inch wide or 2 1/2 inch wide. If you're binding through a curve for bag making, you will need to cut that on the bias. If you want me to help you troubleshoot further though, feel free to send me an email if you're in the middle of a project and just need a little bit of help getting it to look a little nicer. I generally tend not to stress too much on the binding for an inside of the bag. I don't have a lot of bag patterns that use binding, but there are a few, and generally the binding, because it's in the lining and in the recesses of the bag, like in the seam areas, generally people won't see it. You might not even see it even when you're opening your bag, so I generally don't stress too much making it look perfect, but I can understand some people like their finishes to look just so. So if you need a little bit of help, you can email me, sarah@sewsweetness.com, and that's Sarah with no H. Cindy says, I finally made my first bag. Congratulations. That must be a really great feeling, and here's to many, many more finishes. Laura says, Sarah, have you heard of hydro dipping shoes? I'll bet your kids would enjoy it. Danny, is that what you did with the paintings? Danny,
No, that's not hydro. We did the water. You put the paint on top and you dip it in the water and then the paint sticks so you pull it out.
Okay, what is that called?
That's hydro dipping. We did that.
Okay.
But
Danny,
downstairs we did paint pouring.
Okay, Danny and the kids did paint pouring, which sounds like it's a little bit different than the hydro dipping. Is that what it was? They've been talking about it for a while. They would like to do something like that, but they haven't yet. Let us know if you have a good video or instruction for that, though. Maybe there's something good on YouTube. Lisa says, did you bind and quilt your Tula Pink strip search quilt? Would love to see it. Actually have not. I'm slacking here. I have the quilts, a few quilts I wanted to send to be long-armed. Nothing fancy, but I have the backing fabric sitting on my chair that I cut out a couple weeks ago. I just need to sew the backing fabric strips together, 2 pieces of fabric sewn right sides together, and for some reason I'm slacking on that. So as soon as I get that done, I will send out the quilt, and I'll share with you as soon as I get it bound. But seeing as how things are going with just piecing those backing fabrics, it might be a while. Karen says, do you have a YouTube video on how to use the zipper acrylic template? We do. Should be on the YouTube channel. Check on our YouTube channel, Zipper Pocket, or if you go to my website, in the shop, the product listing for the Zipper Pocket acrylic template does have the video embedded in the product listing. I think we just ran out of that template this morning though, but we have more on the way, plenty more, so we'll have it back in stock again soon. Sandy says, how do you win a prize? I'm new here and enjoy your show. Thank you. So the giveaway at the end of every Sewcial Sunday is a randomly drawn winner. So at the end of the show, I will have a giveaway question for everyone to answer. And out of everyone who answers that question, I compile all of the names into a spreadsheet from both Facebook and YouTube, since we stream Facebook and YouTube at the same time. And I draw a randomly drawn winner with my random number generator, which is random.org, and I announce the winner on the following week's show. So there's a whole week that you have to enter, because a lot of people watch the recording during the week. So that's how to enter the end of the show giveaways. And we periodically have giveaways, live giveaways during the show, sometimes when Danny's on the show, and for that we draw random names, choosing numbers. It's a complicated process to explain, but Danny has everyone's comments on his computer screen, and we choose randomly based on that. Joan says, do you put a piece of stabilizer on the wrong side of the fabric after installing the purse feet? You can. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. So the purse feet that I demonstrated, I did not have stabilizer on the back just because I'm using the foam interfacing. However, if you'd like a little bit of extra stability, you can cut a piece of either Pell & Peltex or Decoville Heavy, something ultra firm, a firm interfacing. The square doesn't have to be big. It can be a 1.5 inch square, and you'll cut slits in that square just as you do in the fabric, and you'll insert the purse foot through that extra stabilizer on the wrong side of the foam or whatever you're using for the bottom of your bag. And that will make some extra stability for the metal prongs to go through. We also have on order, it'll be a few weeks before we get these in, but I've also ordered some new purse feet that screw in with a Phillips screwdriver, so they don't have prongs. The purse feet look very similar to the regular purse feet that we already stock with the prongs, except on the back side there's just a second piece that you screw in with your Phillips screwdriver, and I usually put a little dab of glue before I screw that in to make it permanent. Joni says, what type of rivets do you use, round head, flat head, or other, and where do you buy your rivets? So my rivet press was originally purchased from Minkus Margot on Etsy. I'm not sure, she might have a vacation set up for her shop on Etsy right now, but I buy all of the dies that I need and the replacement rivets from Minkus Margot. A lot of people in the So Sweetness group have purchased presses from Gold Star Tools, and I've personally not used that particular press, but I assume they have all of the relevant dies and replacement rivets there. The rivets that I use most often are the 8mm rivets and with the 6mm post. And if you check out my rivet press video on YouTube, I go into a full explanation of all of the different dies that I have, just because each separate implement needs a separate die, unfortunately, like grommets, snaps, whatever else you're installing. So check out that video if you'd like a more in-depth explanation as far as the different items that I use in my rivet press. Sue says your spacing template would also work great for spacing buttons on a garment. I didn't even think about that, but you're exactly right. It would be really great for buttons on garments. Casey says, have you ever used iron-on vinyl on any of your bags? If so, what brand do you recommend? If you mean the iron-on clear vinyl, I did maybe last year, maybe a little bit longer than that. I did a demonstration on Sewcial Sunday about the clear iron-on vinyl. I tried two different brands. One was Pellon, the other one was, the name's escaping me right now, but I demonstrated those by ironing them onto candy bag wrappers. It can be used on fabric as well, but I found between the two, the Pellon matte vinyl fuse was my favorite out of the two that I tested. If you'd like to check out that video, just check for iron-on vinyl. And we actually do sell the Pellon matte vinyl fuse, which is the one that I liked the best in our online shop. Danielle says, when you're using the sewing form that you like, are you using an overlock stitch or a serger? For garment sewing, I do have a serger and I do have a cover stitch, and they're separate, so they're not a combination 2-in-1. I chose not to have a combination 2-in-1 just because I didn't want to be rethreading and fiddling around with that when I was ready to sew a garment. I just wanted to sit down and sew. My first serger was the Brother 1034D, which was fantastic, but when I upgraded my serger, I wanted to get a Juki because my sewing machine is also a Juki, and so my serger, I'm looking at the model number because it's sitting right there. My serger is the Juki MO1000. Kathleen says, do you have any suggestions on how to store small scraps of batting and fabric pieces? They come in handy when making tabs for zippers or small straps. So you're definitely right about coming in handy. I used to keep scraps in a round hat box. I had a couple of them. It was sort of inconvenient just because of the size and shape of the hat boxes, them being round. Some plastic storage containers. I have a lot of storage containers for other things. Let's see if I have any back here. Yeah, so plastic storage containers with lids like this. I use this for my cam snaps mostly, but this is helpful because it stacks, and I have a few different ones for, I have 2 or 3 for zippers, and they're just kept in various places in the sewing room. So definitely something that's more economic on the space, such as that rectangle shaped one with a lid, definitely very helpful. Danny, are you calling on the questions? All right, Danny's calling in on the questions. I apologize if I did not get to your question live, but we'll be back again next Sunday answering lots more questions. My giveaway for this week is we're going to be giving away another 6 rolls of assorted cork fabrics. So it'll be a surprise what colors are chosen, but they're sure to be good ones just because we've been cutting a lot of cork up this week. All you have to do to enter the giveaway is answer my question in the comments, either on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you watch the show. My question is, have you ever quilted a sewn item either a quilt or otherwise. Maybe you've quilted fabric for a bag before. Let me know this answer in the comments, and I'll be drawing a randomly drawn winner at the end of the day Saturday and announcing the winner on next Sunday's show. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great week and happy sewing. Bye everybody.